In today's episode of Seeking True Love, I have Alicia Grantham with me. She is a coach for full-time working moms. And the reason why I invited Alicia onto this podcast is because Alicia is a big believer in going for your dreams. Alicia's focus with her clients tends to be about career dreams and life dreams that may have gotten on the back burner. However, one of the dreams that also is very important to keep in mind is the dream of romantic love. And I think in some ways it's even easier to put that one on the back burner because if you've got a dream for career, you got to make money, you got to make it happen. But romantic love is something that people really can just shove in the bottom drawer. Today, we're going to be talking about that. Alicia, thanks for coming on the
Yeah, I'm
podcast.
so excited to be here, Elizabeth.
So excited to have you. Welcome to Seeking True Love, dating advice for highly sensitive, heart-led women. If you're a deeply feeling, intuitive woman who longs for a relationship that meets you on every emotional level, you're in the right place. This podcast is for women who lead with their hearts and who refuse to settle for surface-level dating or emotionally unavailable partners. Here, you'll get practical dating guidance made for HSPs, support for the challenges sensitive women face, tools to stay grounded without abandoning your needs, and expert conversation about what true love really is and how to call it in for yourself. Because your love story should be extraordinary.
You're just right for me, and I'm just right for you. And I'll take your heart and squeeze so softly, so sweetly, forever love.
Alicia Grantham is a wife, mom of 2 amazing kids, a dog mom to a lively labradoodle, and the founder of Lavender and Lemons Coaching. After more than a decade climbing the corporate ladder as a CPA, Alicia realized that checking all the boxes still left her unfulfilled. So she traded in survival mode for a life fueled by purpose, freedom, and joy. Now, through her coaching practice, Alicia helps ambitious full-time working moms reconnect with themselves, beyond the titles of employee and mom, to reignite the passion and dreams that they've been putting on the back burner and take bold steps toward building a life that they love. She's living proof that you can pack the lunchbox, crush it at work, and still chase those big dreams. Alicia, I'm so excited to have this conversation with you because here we are. You and I are both moms. We're both mom entrepreneurs. And this podcast is about seeking true love. I think that this is in many ways the time where a lot of women really put love on the back burner. So let's start with your thoughts on that.
Yes. So love is such a valid dream. I really truly believe that as humans, we are designed for companionship. We are designed for partnership. And that dream, that need, that desire of finding a romantic partner and having someone next to you to witness your life is very valid. And I think if we learned nothing else from COVID, it was that we as a society need each other. I think we were going on this trend towards isolation with social media and talking over text more than over the phone or in person. And then suddenly we were totally just reliant upon social media and isolated in our homes. And now as we're recovering from those years, even in the entrepreneurial space, we're noticing there's a need for community. People really want to connect. And so circling back to the dream of true love, it's such a valid dream. And to your point, it is one that tends to get pushed on the back burner of, oh, I'll get to it when I'll get to it. Or honestly, if you really want to dig deep on it, especially as women have received so much social conditioning and messaging that needing true love and wanting true love means we're needy or we're desperate or that in some way it's kind of just shallow or petty. And I don't know, maybe it's from watching Cinderella and he rescues her or what, all of these rom-com movies. But really, that is not true at all. It's a very valid need and it's not flaky or shallow. It's deep and it's meaningful and it's really just desiring to have someone, the partner, to witness your ups and your downs. And at the end of the day, no one's going to know you as deeply as you know yourself. But it's still really nice to have someone there when you've had a really crappy day or in a really amazing day, or when you're just on a journey, right? Like you're starting a business or you're trying something new or you're even just knitting a blanket and they can see where you started and how far you've come. I really think it's such a beautiful dream, such a valid dream, and one that if you have been putting it on the back burner, it is time to move it to the front because we all need partnership and companionship in whatever form that looks like.
Yes, that was so beautifully said.
You know?
I love how you mentioned the thing about that society has conditioned women to have that dream almost be needy. And I know that that is part of the decentering from men movement, that that's kind of gotten woven in there. Are you familiar with that, the decentering from men?
No, I'm not.
Okay. I'm somewhat familiar with it. It's not a rabbit hole I've gone down totally. My understanding is that there's a movement of women who are basically saying that they want to stop making a man the center of their lives. Now, I actually think that that is a very healthy choice because you don't really want to make any one thing the center of your life.
Exactly.
You know, you don't want to have your job be the center of your life. You don't want to have your kids be the center of your life. In that sense, I think it's very healthy. What I've noticed is what seems to get woven into this movement is a little bit of a you don't need a man at all. That even the desire is somehow something to move away from. And I think that that's a shame because as you said, you know, this isn't about looking for Prince Charming to rescue you. This is a deep, deep human need that we all have. Men and women. Everybody has this need. I shouldn't say everybody. I know there are people who identify as asexual and aromantic. Even those people need human connection.
Yes.
I don't know anyone who doesn't need some form of human connection.
Yeah.
And the majority of people want intimate romantic connection and intimate sexual connection as one of the relationships they have. And family and friends and spiritual relationship, spiritual love, self-love, these are not replacements.
Right.
They're just not. It's a different vitamin.
Exactly. It's a different type of love. It meets a different kind of need.
Right. So that's why I'm so happy to talk with you because I know that you are somebody who really realized this and you talked about checking off all the boxes. Being happy didn't come from checking off all the boxes. And that's an experience that's so universal for so many people. For you, it was in the area of career, but I've seen this in the area of love. I did it a little bit myself in the area of love where you're checking off the boxes of what kind of person should I be with. And that may not be the person who really fills up your soul.
Yeah, so true. So true. I actually even had one of those checklists. I was encouraged to do it when I was as part of my youth group is create a checklist of the man of your dreams. I think essentially the premise was, now that I'm thinking about it, was to manifest this guy, I guess. I don't know. But honestly, if I look at that list now and who I'm married to, he's not in a band. He does not play bass or drums. And while some of those criteria are there, some of them are not. I wouldn't necessarily call him a strong leader. I'm actually the stronger leader of the two of us. So yeah, to your point, the person that is aligned with your soul probably won't check all of the boxes, but sometimes you need to turn off the mind and the logical, what do I want, and creating checklists and go a little bit more intuitive and feel into those softer skills, if that makes sense.
It really does. And this is a funny example that you said I had this list because actually in my coaching, I do encourage a list. And then there's a process of, I don't want to say letting go of that list. It's just that you're not going to meet someone that matches the list 100%. The list is a guiding point. It's almost like a compass to bring you into the right relationship. When I then looked at my list after getting into the relationship that I'm in now, there were a couple things that most of the things lined up. A couple of things did not line up. And when I looked at them, I realized, you know what? Actually, it's okay. It's okay that these don't line up. And I'm going to give you an example. One of the things that was on my list is that we share the exact same spiritual beliefs and the exact same spiritual practice. And my partner and I, we have some similarities there and some differences there. And some of the differences that he has, I'm going to say he's a little bit more on the atheist side of the spectrum than I am. And at first that bothered me. And when I did some reflection on why does this bother me so much, is that what I discovered in myself is, well, it's going to be hard for me. This was a belief that I uncovered. It's going to be hard for me to stick to my spiritual beliefs if my partner doesn't share them. And I thought that actually sounds extremely codependent. And you know what? I don't think I want that. I think actually it's okay for us to have differences because we're two different people. And the value of it changed to where I said, what's really important to me is that we can have an interesting conversation about it, an intelligent conversation about it, where maybe he's challenging my ideas a little bit and I'm challenging his ideas a little bit, and that makes both of us stronger instead of it weakening me. Because if I need someone else to believe in my spiritual beliefs just for me to stick to them, they're not very strong.
Right.
So that was interesting because you see these things that can show up on a list. You don't know where they're coming from all the time until that person shows up and challenges it a little bit. And the things that were non-negotiables for me, like a certain level of emotional intelligence and dedication and honesty, those are there 100%. So that's what I've noticed. And what you said about, if that person's just checking the box, you also have to feel something. Yeah. It also has to light up your heart.
Yeah. And I think to your point, having a list, especially non-negotiables, having a list of non-negotiables is so important. But then also making sure that you're not hanging on to it so tightly that your soulmate walks right on by and you totally miss him because you're just staring over here at your list.
It's an interesting balance. And there's so many other love coaches and dating and relationship coaches that recommend the list. And then there's some that say, if you have a list, throw it in the garbage. And this is something that I did so much research on, actually, because I started to look at why are some people in this coaching space so adamant, yes, you want to have a list, and why are some people like, throw your list away because you're not going to be present. And I started to look at, well, what is each intention of each camp? What I found is exactly what we're talking about, is that the list is a way to guide yourself. I think that if you're stuck in a pattern of attracting unhappy relationships or unhappy situations over and over again, the list will help guide you out of that. Because it will give you something like a target to reach for, so you won't just repeat your pattern.
Yeah.
Because if what you're attracted to is emotionally unavailable man, and you're just, okay, I'm going to go out in the dating world and I'm going to be present, and you haven't done that healing, you're probably just going to find another emotionally unavailable man.
So true.
Because that's what you got led to.
Yep, that's what you're programmed to.
Exactly. And so if you have the list where the non-negotiable is emotional availability, and you know exactly what that looks like, what that sounds like, what that feels like in your body, how that's going to play out in a relationship, and you know the red flags to look for and you know the green flags to look for, then you can say, oh, you know what? I'm going to be more intentional about this. At the same time, I agree with the people that say you need to let go of having a list. You said if you're staring at the list, the soulmate could walk right by. So it's this nice balance. And I imagine that's probably true for some of the work you do with people who are going for their dreams, that people come in with certain dreams. I want to hear more about this, that people come in with certain dreams, any kind of dream. How do you help them ground it into something tangible?
Yes. So everyone has a different dream. So some moms have a dream of, they're working full time and they want to go to part time, but they don't want to have a salary cut or a pay cut. And so it's okay, how can we make that happen? Some moms want to start a side hustle. Some moms, you and I are ready to just pitch corporate and go full on into entrepreneurship and start a dream or start a business. Obviously, the business is their dream. And so with my coaching, it really is, how can you take the first step and to make that dream tangible? And sometimes the first step is mindset. And you're like, okay, that's not tangible. Yeah, yes, it is. Because the shifts that will start happening once you are shifting those beliefs in your mind. And like those are really the first steps to actually getting this dream into fruition. Sometimes it's really focusing on the fears. Okay, you've got this dream. What's been holding you back? And then really investigating that. I had a fear. So I actually have a podcast episode I did all about fear. And I talk about one that I had and doing this exercise of, and then what, or why? So mine was, I'm afraid of losing my corporate salary. Why? Because what if I go for my dream and I don't have the salary and I don't make money? Okay, why is that scary? And keep going, keep going, keep going. You're supposed to really go 7 times. I noticed my ultimate deep, deep fear behind it was homelessness. I was afraid that we would end up on the streets if I quit my job. And once you recognize that, yes, that's a really big, heavy fear, but it was, oh, wait, I have a college degree. I've had a well-paying job before. I would be able to get one again. I am on top of our finances. So if it really came to that point, I could I could go and get a job. I have the skills, I have the certifications to go get a job. So I could also see how it's a little bit invalid, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. And I think that's a great mindset shift is to see what's the fear and then what's the likelihood or what would actually happen.
Yes.
It sounds like what happened with you is that you recognized, well, in my mind, I'm afraid of homelessness. The reality is the worst thing that would happen is I'd have to go back to a corporate job that maybe I don't like so much,
Exactly.
which is not
But
great,
it's not that
but it's not
scary.
homelessness. Yeah, it's
Yes.
not that bad. And yeah, I think similar things do happen in dating and relationships where when you really think about what's this fear,
Yes.
it's like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? Someone isn't going to text you back.
Yeah. And if they don't text you, not that bad. It's what you make it mean. So really,
Yes.
you making them not text you back, how you're interpreting that and what you're making that mean about yourself is really your fear. And that's something you can control, you know?
Yeah, it sounds like you have a really solid grip on the mindset aspect of this. And that is the start for dreams.
It's working with your mindset that and developing the belief that this dream is yours, that it's meant to have it. You've got a dream for love. You are meant to have love. That dream is in your heart. You're meant to have it. So it's developing them and strengthening your mindset that you know and fully believe 100% faith that it's meant for you and that it's just a matter of you going to get it. And then looking at those fears and overcoming those fears. And really, mindset and
Mhm.
fears are probably the two main things holding you back from going for your dreams. So once you get those under control, actually taking action is way easier to tap into that dream and to start making
Yeah.
movement forward.
So talk more about that because I want to hear, since you work with moms and I'm also a mom and I've been struggling with some of this work-life balance stuff as well. Moms in particular really have this instinct to sacrifice. And when you think about it, in pregnancy, it's if you're pregnant and your baby needs nutrients and you're not getting that nutrients from your food, it's going to come out of your fingernails. That's why you get these brittle fingernails. And that's why some pregnant women get loose teeth and you don't realize because it's in our bodies to sacrifice for the baby.
Yes.
And I don't think that goes away once you give birth. It's really in there. And in some ways you do have to override that instinct. And I'm not saying override it so much that you're not a mom anymore, or you don't have maternal instinct or you don't have maternal care. And children thrive when they see mom happy. We talked about decentering from men. One of the things I had to do was decenter from my kids. For a while, my kids became my purpose in life. I'm just a mom. I'm not going to do anything else. And I don't really care that all these things didn't pan out for me. And I realized that's very unhealthy because as my kids started to get a little older and want a little bit more independence, they're not that old. They're 4 and 7 right now, but a little bit of independence. I just thought, wow, as they get older, if I don't find other ways to have a sense of purpose, this is really going to become an emotional burden on these kids. This is not good parenting. It's not good parenting to center around your kids. Kids need more than mom. They need other relationships.
Yes.
And I would love to hear you talk about how you help moms deal with that instinct to continually backburner and sacrifice their dreams, whether it's a career dream or a love dream. It's the same pattern.
Yes. So I never thought about it that way. How you mentioned when we're pregnant, literally all of our nutrients are going to the baby if we're not getting enough. And that full emphasis, right? If you enjoy wine, well, now you're pregnant. You can't drink wine. You need to make sure you have your sleep. If you have a flu, if you're sick, you can't take medications, ideally without hurting the baby. There are all of these rules and restrictions. And so, yeah, you're right. From the time that we become a mother, this little life growing inside of our bellies, we do already start sacrificing on a deeper level. And then I think beyond that innate sacrificing for our kids, it's also going back to societal programming and how we are told that we need to sacrifice to be a quote unquote good mom, good wife, good partner, good employee. this is what we have to sacrifice. And our worth is measured by, especially as moms, our worth is measured by, is the house clean? Is there dinner on the table? Are my kids eating healthy meals? Scheduling the doctor's appointments and remembering the birthday parties and getting the gifts. There's this visible load and this invisible workload. And yes, if you have a partner, maybe hopefully it's split 50-50, but that is really from someone who's been trying for years to split the load perfectly 50-50, there's still a lot that just falls on me. And so there's a societal programming that's also how our worth is measured. It deepens the belief that we need to sacrifice even further. And then really, if you think about it, we're not that far away from being 1950s housewives. In fact, it's probably worse now because we have careers on top of all of the things that we need to do as moms. But the societal ingraining, recognizing that, and then I love a good mantra or just recognizing the beliefs and shifting it. My worth is not dependent on my output, or my worth is not dependent upon how great of a mom I am. Actually, I was talking to a friend about this just the other day, and she was calling it a truth anchor. And for mine was about being a mom because I was feeling so much shame over having just lost my cool at bedtime the night before. And she was just coaching me through it, right? Okay, I am a good mom, even when I yell at my kids. I am a great mom or a great partner or a great fill in the blank, even when something that you do that, you need to let go of. But switching that mindset and recognizing that your worth is not dependent on your sacrifice, that you don't have to sacrifice to be worthy or valuable or a good mom or any of that. It's a clear slate. I can go for my dream. When you go for your dream, it lights you up. It lights you up, and you show up for your kids on a full nother level. My daughter, I have a very inquisitive daughter, and we talk about anything and everything. She's 6. And when I was still in corporate, all she knew is that I worked for Coca-Cola and we do not consume Pepsi products. We consume Coke products. But what I actually did, she couldn't tell you. What I do now, though, she could tell her teacher, she could tell her friends, she could tell her brother that I'm a mom and I help other moms when they're having a hard time to feel more happiness and joy and to go for their dreams. She words it so much better than that, too.
You should have her do your marketing.
I have used her for my marketing because they say,
oh, that's great.
Yeah, they say to make sure that your content can speak to a 6-year-old to make it really simple. So I will use her sometimes to break it down and explain things so clearly for me. But she knows what I do and she can get excited about it. And my kids know I've got a podcast. And just from the day to day, I'm not saying every day is yippee skippy and I'm excited to go, but more days than not, I wake up ready for the day. More often than not, I do not have the Sunday scaries. I'm ready for Monday to roll around. I'm usually feeling well rested. I've spent good time with my kids, and I'm ready for Monday to dive into my business and what lights me up. And so when I'm lit up, I'm happier, I'm more patient, I'm more joyful, I feel more fulfilled, and that impacts how I show up. That impacts how I show up for my husband and for my kids and for my friends and my family. So going for your dreams is not selfish, and it's not shallow or flaky or unnecessary. It is actually very, very necessary. You need to do it, not just for yourself, but how you being lit up will literally impact the entire world. There is just a ripple effect. It impacts your kids, your partner, your neighbor, your friends, how you show up at the grocery store, how willing you are to contribute to charities, how you show up at the gym, how you impact your light and bright, beautiful self will just illuminate everyone when you're doing what lights you up.
I love that. That is true. I know you're talking about it in the context of parenting. That is one of the best things you can do for your dating life as well.
Believe it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know you're married, you're out of the dating pool, but for people who are single, I mean, again, this is one of those pieces of advice that is all over the love coach, relationship, dating coach map. Everyone I know who is a a coach in this space will say, be going for your dreams. Do what lights you up and have something that you're passionate about, have something going on in your life that isn't just looking for that relationship. That's a mistake that I made when I was younger. I was so hyper focused on finding a man. I wasn't really passionate about much else. And so I love what you're saying, because what you talked about you're going to be lit up in every area of your life. If you're single right now, do that. You will become attractive and lit up to the people
You
around
will
you. You will pull
magnetize.
that person in.
You will magnetize your
Yes.
soulmate to you.
Yes. And it's something that I noticed because I started making art. That's one of the things that I did to kickstart my career dreams again. I had a period of time where my marriage was ending and I was on the apps and going on dates. And the first few dates that I went on, even though they were good men that I connected with, it didn't really go anywhere. I noticed that my dating life improved when I started making art. When I thought about it, I realized, well, yeah, that's because I had something to talk about on the first date, besides how unhappy I was with
Yeah.
these breakups. It's a long story, but I had 2 breakups, and that's what was going on in my life, is that I had this heartbreak and that heartbreak, and not a great dating story. I mean, people were empathetic, and I tend to go for people that like to talk about relationships, and they're not put off by that, but there just wasn't a spark. And by contrast, there was a first date that I had, not the person I ended up with, but it was just such a better date. And I thought about it because I'm always analyzing my own dating life and my own relationship stuff for my work. I thought about it, was like, what was going on that date that made it so much better? And it's because I had set the intention to start painting. I hadn't even really started doing anything yet other than collect pictures of flowers and trees and landscapes that I thought were beautiful that I was going to use as inspiration. And this particular person also really loved nature. And at one point during our first date, he made a comment like, "Oh, I bet you have a bunch of plant porn on your phone like I do." Because he had all these tree pictures. And I said, "Oh, yeah." And I pulled out this folder of all these flowers and things. And then we started texting each other pretty flowers and trees throughout the week that we would see. And this is why, because I have something going on that connected to him and vice versa. And this is how we're flirting, as we're sending each other these pictures.
Yes.
You don't know how it's going to show up. It's not like I could have said, "Oh, you know what? If you want to meet somebody, collect a bunch of tree pictures and then send them." You don't know, but that was what ended up happening. And it's the same thing what you said with your kids. Your daughter is lit up, and your whole world, it sounds like, is more lit up.
Yes.
I wanted to connect it to dating in that way, because I don't think people really understand how much that will help.
Yes.
Yes, you need dating strategy, but that will help.
Think about it. So say you spent the day doing something, working in a job that you love, or say it's the weekend and you spent the day painting, or just doing something that really lights you up. And then you go out to the bar with your girlfriends and you're just having fun and you're already feeling satisfied. You're feeling content. You've had a great day pursuing your dreams. Now you're out with your girlfriends. You are going to be magnetic, I'm willing to bet. And other people are going to notice that you are lit up. They're going to be able to sense that you are genuinely at ease with yourself and you're going to have a fun time. Even your girlfriends are going to feel more connected, and you just show up. You never know when you're going to meet your soulmate. But when you're going for your dreams while also pursuing the dream of love, I think part of that is it helps you to kind of let go of the clenched fists of trying to find. You're like, okay, I'm working on this while searching for true love. And it helps you to relax the fists, focus on this, and be more in flow with calling into love, where sometimes it feels like when you're forcing, when you're really trying, when you really, really want something to happen, it's almost like the repelling energy. It's like you're trying so hard that it just doesn't happen. But when you go into that ease and flow, suddenly you'll have 5 people knocking on your door, sending you texts, or wanting to connect on Instagram or TikTok. And it's just because you loosened the grip a little bit and you were focused on a dream that lights you up. And in the meantime, too, it's fulfilling an area of your life while you're searching for fulfillment in another.
Alicia, you've been married for 11 years. So my question to you, what is true love?
So my definition of true love evolved over the years, and I'm sure it will evolve more. But at this moment in time, I would define true love as choosing someone and loving and accepting them exactly as they are and exactly as they are not. Just who who they are. And honestly, just being loved for exactly who you are, that really is one of the truest, deepest meanings of love. And looking at, my husband and my relationship, I'm not saying that there aren't things about him that I don't want to change. I would love it if he would quit leaving his dirty socks all over the floor. That would be amazing to me.
I don't know why that's the classic
Yeah.
thing.
And he's all but my kids do it too. I'm like, am I the only one who believes in wearing socks in this house? And why don't you guys put them in the basket? I have a dirty laundry basket I keep in the living room, and still the dirty socks end up on the floor. So yeah, or do I wish that the invisible workload was totally 50-50? Yes. And I'm going to keep working towards getting us there. But at the end of the day, if he were to never change, if he were to till the end of our days, always leave his dirty socks on the floor, would I choose to be with him? Yeah. Yes, I would. And I think also it's focusing on the good parts of who he is. I could wish that maybe he played the bass or that he was a strong leader, things that he's not or whatever. I could wish those, but also look at my husband. He has so many amazing traits. And I think that's such an important part of when you truly love someone choosing them and just choosing to focus on the good parts that they have, Like for me, I'm an entrepreneur and I was the breadwinner. When I quit my corporate job, our family was in a tight financial spot, and my husband just had full faith that I could figure it out. And not that he wasn't supporting me, but actually he was supporting me at a really, really deep level. He was saying, yeah, this is really, really scary, but I have faith in you that you need to go for your dreams. I believe in you. I love you. And we will figure this out. So yeah, if you're that miserable in corporate and you want to go do this, then I'll be your ride or die.
Oh, that's
It's
lovely.
so lovely. And he didn't word it that, but his soul worded it that way to my soul. Well, it's true. Here we are a year in, and he is still on my team supporting me. And I think, okay, well, if I focused on all of these things that I wish were different about him and decided to leave, would I be able to find someone who would support me to the depth that he has supported me, who loves me to the way that he loves me? And so I'm like, I think I will just, even when I'm grumpy and mad at him, I will stay put. I love my husband. And yeah. So going back, I think true love is just loving someone exactly as they are and exactly as they are. And of course, there are always going to be some things that you want to change, but it's just choosing to focus on the good, beautiful things that they bring to the table into the relationship.
Yeah. That's where the intention and the list comes in for those who are single. I call it the good enough guy. And that sounds bad because of the way I think we're conditioned, but I mean actually good enough. The guy who's actually good enough, because the perfect guy doesn't exist.
Right.
And when you have the good enough guy, then you can navigate life together in the way that you've described. This is something I've heard from other guests as well, that there is an acceptance. And it's a bit of a paradox because you do want someone you can grow with. And at the same time, you don't want them to have to change in order for the relationship to continue to work.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, it's accepting him exactly as he is and as he's not. And as he change, as we're humans, right? I heard that we change fully every 7 years. So if you look at your friendships, it's
Yeah.
very common for a friendship to kind of fade away after 7 years because you change. And that's where that choice comes in. It's like, okay, you're evolving. Who I am now is totally different than who we started dating, who I was. We've been married now. So we've been together for 11, but we've been married for almost 9. So that means I've gone through my 7-year cycle and I'm
Yeah.
a few years into my next. And you choose to continue to accept them exactly as they are and as they're not. And honestly, seeing that evolution it's really beautiful. It's part of humanity. I love seeing who he's becoming, who I'm becoming, who my kids are becoming. I think it's also just accepting that that's life, right? That we're going to change and evolve, and you just choose to do it together.
Yeah. And some relationships do end.
Yep.
And one of my philosophies is that doesn't mean it wasn't true love at the time.
100%.
There are certain impasses that I think really, because following your dreams are so important, there are some impasses that may show up years down the road of a relationship where you really do have to part ways for both of you to follow your dreams. And that's part of what happened in my marriage. So I honor that as well,
Yes.
because you don't want to stick it out to the point where you're sacrificing your own dreams.
So along those lines, I actually did an episode of my podcast that I just released this week about when it's time to let a dream go. Because dreams, like relationships, sometimes we have these dreams that hung on to since childhood or college. I talk about when I was in corporate, I went for my accounting degree. I got my CPA. I spent 13 years in corporate. I had this dream of becoming an executive. And then when I became a mom, I slowly started to realize that dream wasn't meant for me anymore. It didn't fit me anymore. And it's the same with relationships. Sometimes we get into relationships and we are a different version of ourselves. And what we needed then is different than what we need. But in my podcast, I talk about how when it's time to let that dream go, to thank it for all that it's done, who we became while we were going for that dream, the skills that we learned, the strengths that we developed, and recognizing that and then thanking it and letting it go, because it brought you to the door to the next part of your journey. And I would say it's the same with relationships. It's who you became in that relationship, the skills that you learned and the opportunities that you had, all of the different things that come with a relationship. There's such a beautiful purpose to it. And it was so meaningful and beautiful. And
Yeah.
it brought you to the next part of your journey. And so you can thank it and let it go with love.
I think that's beautiful. That's a practice that I started doing early on in my dating life, even with the men who were, let's just call it the stopping and starting dating.
Yeah.
Because for a long time, my pattern was to meet a guy and there was an initial spark and it seemed like there was interest and then they would fade away. And I know that's a very common experience for women where all of a sudden the text messages are less frequent and then you don't really hear from them. Maybe there's a ghosting or they're just kind of like, I wasn't really looking for a serious relationship. And one of the things that I learned to do is to even find something good or something valuable out of that situation. And it could be something as simple as one of those guys, we slept together and then he ghosted me for over a month. He introduced me to one of my favorite bands. Somebody else maybe introduced me to a really cool restaurant or a really cool art gallery. And there was another guy who ghosted me after I borrowed his jacket and I still had his jacket. And I was like, you know what? Now I got this comfy jacket. And it's just something I started to do where I was like, I can find something good that came out of even these very short, quick, whatever, just so that I don't descend into bitterness. But certainly in something more long term, you can find all kinds of gems.
Yeah. I love that. How you were even doing it for the little things. Finding a new favorite restaurant or a new favorite band. Thank you, universe. Yes, you could even bring some more people like that to my life. Because what other wonderful things will I be introduced to because of this short relationship?
So I want to hear what words of wisdom you would have for a woman who wants to have it all. They want to have motherhood, they want to have love, they want to have a fulfilling career, especially for highly sensitive women who get very overwhelmed. I know I've been overwhelmed in trying to balance this out. I want to hear what you would have to say to that.
It is so possible. I think if nothing else, know that it is possible. And it's not too much. That dream of having it all, it's not too much. Those are very, I don't want to say basic. Can you take them upstairs just for a minute, honey? This is the last question. Cool, buddy. Okay, sorry.
Kind of want to leave that part in there. Just you asking your husband for help.
Take them upstairs.
Yeah.
Yeah. But to your question. So I would say believing that it is possible to have it all. And, really shaping in that mindset of and maybe finding, again, a mantra or a truth anchor, as my friend called it, to really get it in and really truly start believing deep in your bones that it is possible to have the true love and to have the family and to have the successful career. It's baby steps, right? And so don't try to have it all right now. You chunk it down and you see, okay, what is the most important for me right now? And what little steps can I do to go for that right now, And it can be easy. I think that's a beautiful mantra that things can be easy. Things can flow. So yes, I think first believing it is possible. It is possible to have it all. And we've got a long life, God willing, knock on wood. We have years and years ahead. So you don't have to have it all right now. It's working towards one thing and making progress there. And then before you know it, you have the soulmate and the partner that's supporting you. And now you can work towards the next thing. And maybe sometimes life throws you a curveball and you're working on two different things simultaneously, but don't get into overwhelm. Take it one day at a time. It doesn't have to be all right now, but it is possible to have it all.
I love that. Take it one day at a time.
Yes.
Take it one moment at a time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I have to remind myself that so often with my business, that I want to have the $1 million blah, blah, blah right now. I want to have the vacations and the financial freedom and the beautiful home and all of that stuff right now. I know it's one day at a time, right? Showing up on social media today or recording a podcast today. It's these little baby steps. And I know one day I'm going to blink and 10 years will have passed and I will have those things. And I'll be looking back to where I am now and wishing I could tell myself, don't worry, it's coming. It's coming. And so that's what I would say about, whatever dream people have, especially the dream of true love. It's going on one date, putting yourself out there. It's what lights you up and working on that while, calling in true love. And then one day before you know it, it'll be 10 years from now and you will have been happily settled down for many years and the time is going to pass. So just keep going one day at a time. And before you know it, it'll be here and you'll be looking back thinking, oh my gosh, I was so overwhelmed. I was wanting it all right now, but it was coming to me all along.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So important too to stay out of overwhelm.
Yes. Yes.
One of the things that I recommend is to just set aside 2 hours a week to start if you are really putting love on the back burner. So this could be for single moms, single women who aren't moms, whoever, right? And even I think if you're in a relationship, for your relationship, but it's the date night.
Yes.
So it's 2 to 3 hours a week and it's your date night. And it's something that I say, even when you're single, carve out that date night. And that's your night that you're spending on your dating life because it starts to train your brain.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you have done a similar thing with the people that you work with, where it's so easy to just keep sacrificing and keep sacrificing and keep sacrificing if you don't carve out that time.
Yep.
And it's one step at a time.
It is one step at a time and you matter. So you don't have to sacrifice for everybody else. You matter too. What you desire matters too. And again, I think if it's in your heart and it's something that you deeply want, it's meant for you. It's just part of your soul's journey here on earth to go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Alicia, how can people find out more about you? And do you have any free gifts or offerings for our audience today?
Yes. So I have a guide for vision boarding. It's called See It to Believe It. And it's a guide to vision boarding with purpose. Of course, my main client is a working mom, but really anybody could use this guide. And it walks you through basically how to create a vision board and how vision boards actually work. A vision board isn't just a bunch of pretty pictures of things that you want. It's when you actually create a vision board and you have it in your line of sight, you start to draw and attract those things to you. And it also provides so much clarity. And so on my vision board, for example, I have Disney because I have a dream of taking my kids to Disney. We haven't done that yet. I've got fitness goals and I have romantic date nights on there that I want to have with my husband and vacations that I would love to take just me and my husband. And so no matter who you are, we all have dreams in our heart. And of course, if you're listening to this podcast, you have a dream for love, but I'm willing you have so many other dreams as well. And big ones, small ones. I had one for a water filter on my vision board. And I actually manifested that water filter on Prime Day. And it wasn't until the water filter was in my home and I was setting it up and I was like, this is on my vision board. And I went and it felt so good to take it off my board. It was like checking it off the list, but so much more empowering.
Yeah.
And so in my guide, I talk about how vision boards work and how it can be so simple to create. Follow my guide and you will have your vision board in 30 minutes or less, depending on how detailed or non-detailed you want to be.
I love that. Thank you very much for that, Alicia. That sounds like a really valuable gift. And you know what? I'm going to go get my vision board going now that you said that.
Yay!
Thank you so much for coming on this podcast today and talking about dreams.
Thank you so much for having me, Elizabeth. This was such a great conversation. I'm so excited that you had me here.